All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, back in the day when you were a kid, I'm sure that you would have debates about who was the greatest superhero. Some people would say Superman and others might say Batman. You always had someone who would say Spider-Man. Someone would say Aquaman. Maybe if they were deeply versed in comic books, someone might even say Wolverine or something along those lines. The fact of the matter is that there's no real answer to who's the greatest superhero, and there's no real answer to who's the quote-unquote greatest basketball player of all time, or the greatest football quarterback of all time, or the greatest boxer of all time. A lot of it's based on your perspective, your opinion, the era in which you grew up, because the time period in which you were a child into an adolescent is what's going to sear certain understandings and memories into your subconscious mind that are going to form very strong attachments. So for those of us who grew up in the late 80s into the 90s, no one's ever going to be able to tell us that there's going to be a player greater than Michael Jordan, because we saw what he was day in, day out, night in, night out. And just being able to watch Kobe and LeBron in the aftermath of Michael's career, you can see the shortcomings in their game in comparison to Michael. Well, if someone's 25 years old, they're going to say that they've never seen a player greater than Kobe or LeBron based on where they're located or who they prefer. That's natural. So there's no real answer once again. But what many of these mainstream sports media outlets are trying to do is to gain a certain level of notoriety or acclaim or notice for themselves, particularly certain sports analysts, based on their willingness to attack Michael Jordan and his legacy. One of them being Mr. Kendrick Perkins, or as I call him, Kendrick Coffey, because he reminds me of the character of John Coffey from Green Mile. He's so damn ludicrous. Every time I see him on TV, he's making a bigger and bigger ass of himself. And like most dudes who talk about the Jordan versus LeBron debate and who decide to side with LeBron, they try to attack Michael Jordan in a very disrespectful way, because at the end of the day, you have to understand that the reason why the NBA is where it is right now, globally, is because of Michael Jordan. Magic and Bird made basketball a national pastime. Jordan made it global. There will literally be no LeBron James and the amount of money that he makes today without a Michael Jordan opening up many of these global markets to the NBA. And LeBron is very disdainful of that fact. He's grown up to look at Michael more as a rival than anyone to be inspired by, and that's his business. But at the end of the day, in the same way that you have to be grateful towards your father for the sacrifices that he made as an athlete, you have to be grateful towards the previous generation who set the stage for you. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
The Finals MVP trophy, as you just said, is named after Bill Russell.
And this fool Adam Silver is really doing a terrible job running the NBA. Whoever the mainstream liberal sports media tells you is doing a great job is normally doing a terrible job.
Been with us every year for the finals, but of course couldn't be in the bubble this year.
And as we can see, Bill Russell in the upper left-hand corner of the frame doing a Kabbalistic pose. Bill Russell is a very high-level Mason himself.
I was watching at home, and I have a feeling that this finals MVP is going to have a trophy named after him one day.
That's the reason why Bill Russell took that photograph of him posing like Colin Kaepernick, which is taking the knee or bowing the knee to Baal. Bill Russell and Colin Kaepernick are both members of the same fraternity, the same Boule fraternity.
Finals MVP is LeBron James.
A resume fit for a king. 3 teams, 4 NBA titles, 4 NBA Finals MVP, averaging nearly 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists per game in the finals at age 35. On that note, I bring in my guy, Kendrick Perkins. Perk, does this close the door on the LeBron GOAT conversation debate?
Of course it does. The door should have been closed. It's LeBron James by far. Yo, Perkins sound like a slave on an old Texas cotton ranch, man.
Door's not even open.
I agree with you, Max. The door's not even open in all reality. LeBron James, great player. I would say that he's the best player of the last 15 years, maybe last 10 years, without a shadow of a doubt. From 2000 to 2010, I'd probably choose either Tim Duncan or Kobe, leaning towards Tim Duncan. But for the last 10 years, I would say LeBron. with a slight edge over KD because LeBron's had more success when it comes to winning championships. But at the end of the day, there's no way in the world that he's approaching Michael Jordan. Not in terms of success or individual accolades.
Absolutely, Molly. Absolutely. And before I start, make sure, can you please, I'm going to play director for a minute. Can you please keep us all three on the screen together? I don't want the one block. I need us all three together because I need to talk about Stephen A. and Mac's body language. I've been watching the show over the last hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and both of these old souls look bothered.
I guess he's trying to say they hating because LeBron won a chip. That what you trying to say, Perk?
Rightfully so, they should be bothered because they can't stomach the fact that they witnessed greatness last night. And
that's how you know this is shtick. This is not real. People like Kendrick Perkins and Nick Wright and Shannon Sharp. What's happened with Shannon Sharp especially, he's acted as LeBron James' #1 fanboy for so long on TV. And with such a level of ardor, Shannon now actually believes that LeBron is the #1 player of all time. When their show first started, Skip and Shannon Undisputed, Shannon said that he would rank LeBron 3rd all time behind Jordan and Kareem. And then all of a sudden, about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, there was a paradigm shift in the debate style between Shannon and Skip, where I don't know if they spoke about it backstage to make the show more competitive or more fervent. But Shannon suddenly decided that LeBron was greater than Michael Jordan. And he stuck with that since then. And I think that it's something that certain other sports pundits are using to kind of stand out from the crowd and say that LeBron is greater than Jordan, just so that they can get some attention for themselves.
For these guys that I'm on the show with right now, both of them said the word never. LeBron James would never pass Michael Jordan. Don't never say never, because like I told you, he's sitting at the dinner table. And
of course he is. He's serving. He has to be close to the dinner table. How else would he hand Michael Jordan his plate of food? That's his job, to serve.
Now he's on this entree with Michael Jordan, but past all that, if one want to call Michael Jordan the GOAT, Michael Jordan the GOAT, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. If you want to call Michael Jordan the GOAT, I grew up on a farm with lots of goats.
Guess what? LeBron James is my GOAT, and I have my reasons to back it. We could talk about
#1 reason being he got you your job at ESPN.
all the stats. We could throw out everything that's out there, and we could go back and forth for hours. But I'm going to tell you.
No, actually, we can't. No one who truly understands and watched Michael Jordan play and knows what the stats say would spend hours going back and forth with no damn LeBron James fan. And LeBron James fans are unable to have a real debate with anyone who knows the truth about the comparison between Michael Jordan and LeBron James for hours. Not even Nick Wright. I saw Nick Wright come up with some bullshit stat where he was comparing LeBron James' performance against the Dallas Mavericks to Andre Iguodala's and Kawhi Leonard's MVP performances in their finals MVP years, to try to claim that how LeBron played in the 2011 finals against the Dallas Mavericks wasn't really that bad. Because LeBron James fanboys know that's the black mark on LeBron's resume that they're never going to be able to eradicate. They understand that. They can explain away many of the other finals losses. They could say, well, the Golden State Warriors were a super team and then they got KD, and look at LeBron's numbers. He averaged 33, 10, and 10. All of the stat padding that LeBron James does, so that 10 years, 20 years from now, people can look back and allege that he did his part, quote unquote. Which were his words after the 2017 finals when KD roasted him, that he, quote unquote, did his part. He didn't care that his team got embarrassed and lost in 5 games. So LeBron knows what the game is actually about. He's a great politician.
One thing about Michael Jordan is that
he was the best.
All have said that they had a few guys that mimicked Michael Jordan. Occasionally, Stephen A. Smith said that Kawhi Leonard game mimics Michael Jordan. A lot of people said that Kobe Bryant games mimic Michael Jordan. We would never see another LeBron James.
Nonsense. As a matter of fact, they call Ben Simmons another LeBron James. Of course, he's not as proficient with his outside jump shooting, nor is he as aggressive offensively. But one can say that his game has been patterned after LeBron James. And one can also say, dare I say, that LeBron has never been as great an overall defensive player as Ben Simmons is right now. We can also see in Luka Doncic, a player who has modeled his game after LeBron James. LeBron James himself is nothing but an Oscar Robertson 2.0. He's basically Oscar Robertson on steroids.
We would never see another player that mimics LeBron.
Even Stephen A. had to crack up with that.
James. With that being said, he's one of one. He's the ultimate generational talent. And the case is closed. 3 teams.
Is he really the ultimate generational talent? He's up there, but I don't think that he's any more transcendent than Michael Jordan was in his era. I don't think that LeBron James is any more of a generational talent than Shaquille O'Neal was from the early 90s to the mid-2000s.
Finals MVP, something that has never been done. And Stephen A., you can smack your lips, you can shake your head, it look like you're bothered, look like you haven't slept all night, and I'm pretty sure you didn't. You too, Max, probably was up pacing, hitting the pillows, drinking coffee, smoking those cheap cigars, and it's
Oh boy, Perkins got his shtick down pat.
Hey, I get it. But right now, we're going to enjoy this moment. We're going to enjoy this moment, and we're going to enjoy LeBron James and enjoy his greatness and not take him for granted. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Max.
Well, a couple things. First of all, yes, LeBron is vying with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for GOAT career, right, in the NBA. Absolutely. In terms of career value. Michael Jordan had 6 legitimate chances to make the finals.
The highest career value will always be Michael Jordan. Always. When you look at the impact that he had on his team and also on how other NBA teams approach their idea of how to win, he's by far the most influential player to ever play. It was never thought that a guard could lead his team to dominance when it came to winning before Michael Jordan. Even the great Magic Johnson had to conform to focusing the offense around the center. When Kareem retired, the Lakers still had 2 very good seasons, but they never were able to win. Who knows? Had Magic been able to stay in the league, maybe he would have won one more championship if they could have brought a free agent on. They had Vlade Divac. That Laker team actually played a lot like the teams play today. They didn't run as much as the teams do today, but they had a stretch 5 in Vlade Divac, a stretch 4 in Sam Perkins, James Worthy, Byron Scott, Magic Johnson. I wouldn't call them pace and space like how they play today. They were more half-court oriented, but they didn't try to run everything through the post. As a matter of fact, their most proficient post scorer was Magic Johnson, Magic and James Worthy.
One MVP of the finals all 6 of those years, and his team went 6-0, each time in under 7 games. Like the finals that LeBron just had, the playoffs that he just had, that was like par for the course for MJ. That's number 1. Number 2.
The Miami Heat team that LeBron James beat in the finals, I'm not quite sure if they would have beat most of the teams that MJ faced in the second round of the playoffs during his title runs. Keep in mind, in 1992, they played the Patrick Ewing, Xavier McDaniel, Anthony Mason, John Starks, Mark Jackson Knicks in the second round of the playoffs in 92. So I don't think that this Miami Heat team will beat that squad back then. In 97, they faced an Atlanta Hawks team that had won over 50 games and were led by Mookie Blaylock, Steve Smith, Dikembe Mutombo, etc. I don't think that this Miami Heat team would beat that team. So, I mean, it is what it is. LeBron lucked out. This was his year to win it, and he got the job done.
Kobe Bryant, in his day, people forget this already. There were as many people in basketball saying Kobe's better than MJ than there are now saying LeBron's better than MJ.
Absolutely. People forget that. They definitely forget that. Back in 2011, the mainstream media was trying to promote the notion that Kobe Bryant was as good as or better than Michael Jordan. As a matter of fact, the NBA was pushing that notion back then. They were trying to help Kobe get a 6th title by having Dwight Howard and Chris Paul come to the Lakers. That didn't work out.
It's died down a bit because it's a direct comparison. Kobe is so close to MJ in terms of style, accomplishment, everything. You can compare them directly, and ultimately MJ's a little better. LeBron has this asymmetry thing going for him. Because he's different than MJ, people like Kendrick Perkins could say he's even better. The record shows he wasn't. MJ...
Nor as impactful. When you look at the effect that Michael Jordan has always had on the Bulls, the way that once they got over the hump, they were able to win 55-plus games every season, 60, 69, 62, 72. Like, it was incredible the way in which they were able to win regular season games and win in the finals, which is very rare that teams are able to win in the 60s that many times and then finish it, cap it off by winning in the finals.
Was a more efficient scorer, but also more efficient offensive player overall. You can check the stats.
Yes, he is. Still number one in PER for a career, despite the 2 seasons with the Wizards. Had Michael Jordan not come back and played with the Wizards, just looking at his numbers, his proficiency rates, and his shooting percentages would have way outflanked LeBron James. After 13 years with the Bulls, for his career, he was shooting something like 51.5% from the field. Michael Jordan was at shooting guard.
MJ was a better defender and more consistent. MJ played more games every year. MJ was more dominant in the playoffs and finals than LeBron James. It's not a...
Absolutely. Jordan averaged 33.4 points per game in the playoffs. In the playoffs.
Against LeBron James, and I get why people watching Kobe and people watching LeBron say what they do, because when your eyes were on Kobe, when your eyes are on LeBron, you can't imagine there was ever anything better than that. I get that, but my eyes were also on MJ. I lived through all 3 eras.
Ding.
I can tell you there was something even a little better than this, and his name is Michael Jordan.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan, as Skip Bayless would say. Get it right.
For his peak. Now, for his career, LeBron already left that alone because he's played so many years, 17th season. LeBron is vying with Kareem for greatest overall NBA career. But as far as who is the best at their best, it's still MJ. I hate to inform you.
And it's not close.
Well, I'm not going to get into the MJ point. We know my position on MJ, and Kendrick Perkins has a very good memory, and he remembers what I...
Like an elephant? Because that's what he looked like.
I don't have to beat him over.
Kendrick Perkins looks and speaks like the basketball version of Snuffleupagus.
With that yet again, like I did last week, we understand the 10 scoring titles, the 6 championships, the fact that he's
LeBron James fans, they get so bothered. Like, he got the nerve to talk about people being bothered. They get so bothered by facts. Oh my God. Okay, move past it. He won 6 championships. Like, that's a small feat. Why would that not be the touchstone of somebody's argument if they were comparing greatness in athletics? If we're going to talk about who the greatest swimmer is, imagine we're having a debate about the greatest swimmer in the history of the Olympics. And someone says it's Michael Phelps because he's won this many gold medals. And someone says, okay, say something without saying how many gold medals he's won. Why the fuck would I do that? You play to win.
The fact that he was a 9-time All-NBA defensive team player, whereas LeBron was 5 times a 10-time scoring champ. We get all of that. But this is the thing about it. I would appreciate it if you stopped lying to the public. I appreciate it, more importantly, Kendrick Perkins, if you define what hating is. I have LeBron James as number 2 all time.
And your list, Stephen A. Smith, no disrespect, is ridiculous. I have LeBron at 5. And I could see someone getting angry at me for having him that high. I could see someone saying, Chronicles, how could you have LeBron James at 5 when he should be behind Tim Duncan, when he should be behind Kobe Bryant? I think that Hakeem Olajuwon was better than him. I think that Shaq and Wilt were better than him. All those people would have the right to their opinion. I'm just evaluating it and judging it based on LeBron's success as an individual, as well as his impact in the playoffs. But you can make a wonderful argument that LeBron James should be somewhere in the lower part of the top 10. I can see that as well. I have him at 5. I think that him winning a 4th title puts him above Larry Bird. I have to place him above Larry Bird. I've held him behind Larry Bird for a very long time based on the premise that Larry Bird was able to accomplish the same things that he was in almost half the time when it comes prime for prime, per se. if you want to consider LeBron still in his prime because he's been injured very little. Either way, I put LeBron above Larry Bird now on my list. I'd actually knocked him down a couple of notches after last season. I had to put him behind Wilt and behind Shaq probably, but after this season, an almost MVP caliber year, ending with a championship, I have to vault him up the list. Right now he's behind Magic, he's behind Bill Russell, he's behind Kareem, and of course he's behind Jordan.
In the history of basketball.
And let me say this, I get a lot of flack from people when I say that I have Kobe in my top 15, somewhere in between 11 to 15. And to say that you're the 11th greatest player that someone's ever seen, when there have been thousands of NBA players and billions of men here on the earth, that's not an insult.
Stop the presses, Kendrick Perkins. What an insult. How dare I sit and insult and hate LeBron James. Basketball started in 1946. The NBA got its name in 1950. It is now 2020. God knows how many players have come through the NBA. And I have said that LeBron James is on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, number 2 all time in the history of basketball. And Kendrick Perkins says, that's hating. That's hating. Let me ask you this question, Kendrick Perkins. If that's hating, what the hell is love? What is true love, Kendrick?
What love is when you bow down to LeBron. Maybe if he got you a job like he got my dumb ass a job, you'd understand.
Perkins, do you know what it is? Because last time I checked, I'm like, my God, the guy is number 2 all time. And that's with 6 NBA Finals losses on his resume. And I still have him number 2 in the history of basketball. And people like you got folks trolling and running around in the streets saying, oh my God.
Absolutely. Max Kellerman said that's true love. Perkins on LeBron. Kendrick loving all up on LeBron. Probably got Shannon Sharp jealous.
Y'all hating on LeBron James. How is that hate?
Because hating came when you mentioned and you shout out. You said he would never be able to pass Michael Jordan in your
because
eyes.
He had 6 finals losses.
That's hating.
That's not hating. That's just facts. LeBron James can never pass by Michael Jordan. And to be honest with you, the debate never goes to the places that it could go. I think that most people who will consider themselves adherents to the notion that Michael Jordan is the greatest player ever, they almost never mention some of the rumblings about LeBron James being on PEDs. And the fact of the matter is, when he left the Miami Heat in 2014, he lost a bunch of weight. He went back to the Cavaliers, was very slim, was no longer as explosive, had situations where he was missing dunks, was barely getting over the rim, and then took 2 weeks off, went down to Miami, and came back looking brolic, jumping out the gym. So whenever people tell me about LeBron James being in year 17, I have to ask, what is he taking? And even Skip Bayless alludes to it on his show when he calls it vibranium. I think that it's common knowledge behind the scenes that LeBron James is on some shit. But they know that it's not good for business to talk about things like that if you can't prove it. But that's why I call him LeBron Armstrong. But just getting back to the point, once you get outplayed in the finals by Jason Terry and you allow yourself to be defended one-on-one by J.J. Barea, you can never be considered the greatest player ever. Ever. That's not even talking about when he's been outplayed by other great players like KD and Kawhi in certain finals. He just has. And people might say, what do you mean? In 2014, he outplayed Kawhi. Look at the numbers. When you look at what Kawhi Leonard was asked to do and the amount of times that he had the ball in his hands, he outplayed LeBron James in those finals.
Because he's still playing and you still have the audacity to say you don't even know what the future is going to hold, but you're so stuck in your ways and you're sitting back in that seat back in L.A. because you got your little peach fuzz showing today because you got your shirt open. You sitting back there and you said the word never. That's what I'm addressing.
Well,
you
let me use the word never, Perk.
And we don't even. And we
I'll
don't
use
even
the word
know,
never.
LeBron James just said he had 4 or 5 good years. So
that's according to him. I'm sure that Kobe Bryant thought the same thing coming down the stretch of the 2012-2013 season. And we know what happened.
Win 2 or 3 more titles.
It took him a lot longer to get him, Perk.
Michael Jordan.
It took him a lot. For his career, he already passed them.
Max.
At his best, it took him a lot longer to get him. Why is that?
Max, no.
The reason why it took LeBron James so much longer to get anywhere near the level of accolades and and credibility of a Michael Jordan is because LeBron is nowhere near as dominant over his peers as Michael Jordan was over his peers.
Max, you stop. You stop right there. You don't even need to address this conversation because last time I checked, you was talking about the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard.
That's totally
What's that got to do? What's that got to do with LeBron and MJ?
Move out the way with that.
What's that got to do with LeBron?
Max, don't let him sidetrack you. Don't let him sidetrack you. Kendrick knows that you have him boxed in the corner, so they're going to bring up how you thought that the Clippers and Kawhi were going to defeat LeBron. That's part of how sensitive LeBron James fanboys are.
He's right about that.
Hold on. I'll use the word never right now.
He's right about that, man.
I'll use the word never right now. Here's the word never, Perk. Here's the word never. You know how many times Michael Jordan played in the finals and he wasn't the MVP and he wasn't the best player on either team? Never. That never happened. Never. There's never for you, okay? Why would that be? Why was Michael Jordan every time the best?
Because he was dominant over his opposition. To the point where people have to make up these excuses about how great players got old when they played him. Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson were old. Magic was 31 years old. Isaiah Thomas was 29 years old when they squared off against Michael in the playoffs in '91. So all the rest of that stuff is nothing but bullshit and balderdash.
Never not the best player on the floor. Never not the MVP.
Hey, Max, you tell me this. You name me one time LeBron James went to the finals and he never was the best player in the finals.
Easy. 2007. Tim Duncan was better than him. 2011. Dirk Nowitzki was better than him. 2014. Kawhi Leonard, even though he didn't have better numbers, he had a better series than LeBron James. LeBron's always going to have better numbers because he has the ball in his hands all the time and his team is running the LeBron James system. In 2017, KD was a better player than him, and 2018. Just facts. To be honest with you, in 2020, I thought Jimmy Butler outplayed LeBron. If we're going to be real about it, when Jimmy was dominant, it resulted in Miami Heat wins. When LeBron was dominant, and he was only dominant in one game, they lost the game. LeBron was not even the best player on the floor in this series in 2020. The best and most impactful player overall, offense and defense on the floor, was Anthony Davis, not LeBron James.
He played King. I might agree with you, but there's a hell of an argument. I think two times. The first time against Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavs, and the second time against KD and the Warriors. You could argue either time LeBron wasn't the best player in the series.
Not just argue, you would win. KD easily outplayed LeBron in 2017 and 2018. And Dirk outplayed LeBron in 2011. And Tim Duncan definitely outplayed LeBron in 2007.
No, sir.
Yes, sir. Refute it with facts.
No, sir. And this is the same thing that you always do, Max.
What, get facts and tell the truth when it comes to the LeBron versus Michael Jordan debate? When it comes to that, Max Kellerman is on point.
The sample size of what someone gives you, and you harp on that. Just like Kawhi gave you a sample size last year, and you were so ready to jump off the deep end and say, oh, yeah, it's Kawhi.
Kawhi Leonard has shown, particularly last season, that he deserved a certain level of praise for his play and the impact that he had on that Toronto Raptors franchise. I think that Kawhi Leonard's performance in last year's playoffs, the 2019 playoffs, was even more impressive than LeBron James' performance in this year's playoffs. Kawhi did not get the benefit of playing with another top 3 player in the NBA last year in the playoffs. Imagine if Kawhi had played with Anthony Davis in Toronto. They might have swept every round. The best player that he played with was Kyle Lowry. And they beat the Greek Freak. They beat the Philadelphia 76ers with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They were able to beat the Golden State Warriors with a healthy Stephen Clay, at least until Game 6. Like, come on.
You try and make it about Kawhi. We're talking about MJ and LeBron. Bottom line is, you asked me a question. Dirk was better than them when they linked up. KD, you could argue, was better when they linked up the second time.
Absolutely.
I was about to argue with KP, but the fact of the matter is, after the way you was wearing pom-poms for Kawhi Leonard for over the last 2 years, you really have no stock in this conversation. He's actually right.
I know you like to make it about that.
You have no stock in this conversation after the way you raved about Kawhi Leonard. Kendrick Perkins got me there.
To do with
That's a very
Kawhi has nothing to do with this, Max Kellerman. They're just mad that you're right. And you're absolutely right in this conversation. But anyway, does LeBron's 4th NBA title make him the quote-unquote GOAT? Well, it makes him the GOAT in masonry, but it doesn't make him the GOAT over Michael Jordan. So peace.